Are we on?
Yeah.
For the first time since Monday night, it's the Joe and Joe Show, starring Joe and Joe.
With Marjorie Reynolds as Peg, Tom DeAndre as Gillis, Wes Morgan as Junior, and Gloria Blondell as Honeybee.
But you see, the problem is you're thinking about the television show
Life of Riley.
And I remember that I used to listen to the radio show on old time radio.
Right.
So they had a whole bunch of different people who was Junior and Peg and
right. And this was yes, it's William Bendix in
The Life of
Riley.
And you probably knew that William Bendix couldn't make it for 1 year on television, so they had Jackie Gleason.
Oh, that's right. Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Why couldn't William Bendix do it then?
I don't know. Maybe he was doing Guadalcanal or some movie or whatever, and he was unavailable.
He got he got an Oscar nomination. I forgot for which movie. I got to go back and look it up. But
you realize there are people out there who have absolutely no clue what we're talking about.
I know.
They're not from the genre that you and I were from.
Well, look, Joe Chaffee, Fios One News, Long Island and New Jersey.
And Joe Rayo, Fios One News, Lower Hudson Valley. And you know that if we're talking about something other than weather, the weather is completely and totally boring.
Right. And I think, speaking of listening, Joe, if you listen very, very closely, are you ready? Listen very closely.
Okay.
Why am I not getting any volume? Oh, hold on. I got wind of it.
You want to do this? You want to do this again?
Okay, so let's do this again.
All right.
I forgot those darn speakers. Oh. Okay, so let's try this again.
Another song.
Okay. Oh, this is just so embarrassing.
Let me see.
Is this your...
And that's it, folks.
To the winter
The fat
season?
lady has sung.
Really?
And by the way, this is not to say that we can't have a day where there might be a couple of snow showers running around. But as far as snow is concerned, it would have to be enough for the governor of New Jersey to declare a state of emergency. Otherwise, it doesn't count.
Oh, dear.
He watches this show almost continuously, just so you know.
I've always said that St. Patrick's Day, which is of course a Sunday, is the day when you can finally say to yourself that if we get any kind of snow, it will not amount to anything significant, and even if it does, it's gone within a day or two because of the high angle.
But last year was an exception to that because the last nor'easter, I believe, was on the 22nd?
It was, well, we had 4 of them, so I think
the fourth one was on the 22nd. That was the one that produced the most snow for everybody.
Right.
I believe it was.
And
the
also
22nd.
knocked out power for places
right.
for a number of days.
But there's nothing like that in the cards.
No.
I've been spending the last 4 or 5 days responding to posts from people who.
Roping.
Well, they're I'm hearing rumors that I heard. My God, the gossip mill over snow for crystallized water must be immense.
Are they still talking about something?
No, whatever it was, we've been trying to make clear. And folks, sometimes when I write my posts, okay, you have to kind of read them because it's sort of essential in order to get the real information, the total, scope of the information. For example, there's a big difference between saying that there's a tiny window of opportunity where the atmosphere might be in a pattern to be in such a way that if you get 5 ducks to come up and line up correctly, you'll wind up with snow. That's basically what I was saying, that we were going to have this window starting this week, from this weekend and into next week, and that's going to happen. We're going to have the colder pattern, but the ducks aren't going to line up in a row. And I made it very clear that the chances of that those ducks lining up in a row were extremely small. Okay, so you just kind of have to go, read beyond the first sentence in order to get the scope of it.
There's a minor little ripple or something that'll be coming on by late Sunday night or early Monday.
Right.
And
that's it.
That's really it.
You know, late next week there's another cold front, big deal, and after that it's really over, because I think the overall pattern is just going to be. I think we're going to have what looks to me like a normal spring, and it's not going to be delayed into the middle or latter part of April. Are there going to be? Is it going to be a straight line up? No, there's going to be ups and downs along the way, with higher highs and higher lows, and that's what springtime is around here.
Our sports director here at FiOS One, Justin Walters, I should have mentioned to him or suggested to him that maybe he can call somebody up well, it's too late now, but at the Yankee front office, the Met front office, and maybe they can have one of those exhibition games either at Citi Field or Yankee Stadium tonight, because the temperatures tonight, Joe, are ridiculously warm for the middle part of March. The normal high is around 50 degrees, and that's where pretty much the temperatures are going to be for the low overnight tonight.
Yeah, they're not going anywhere.
No.
And in fact, it's a sure sign of a springtime map when you've got severe weather on it. And today, I was actually a bit surprised at the extent of the severe weather. As of 6 o'clock tonight, the Storm Prediction Center had 5 tornadoes confirmed today from the storms that have been moving across the Gulf states. And here's on the latest radar, there are some pretty hefty cells in here. They might have just gone past their peak in the last hour or two. You can see them moving into northwest Georgia.
It's been incredibly active in terms of severe weather in the southeast quadrant of the United States
Right.
over the last couple of weeks.
But there are 3 separate lines here. This really, I thought, was pretty amazing. But you've got actually a 4th line. So you've got these lead storms here, and then there's a line on the back edge of all of this, because there's the cold front with very dry air that's pushing eastward. Then there's a second separate line that's moving through northeastern Kentucky and in through eastern Ohio, and they've got some severe thunderstorm watches up there. And then another one in eastern Michigan here. And this is all because of that powerhouse that came out of the Great Plains and ran up, now running up through the northern Great Lakes. But by the time this all gets here tomorrow, Joe, I don't know how much rain we're going to get out of this.
Well, there'll be a threat for maybe a few passing showers, maybe a rumble of thunder. I wouldn't even, if you're thinking about maybe the possibility of severe weather here, that is not going to happen. The parameters are just not favorable for that. But if you see a flash of lightning or hear a rumble of thunder later tomorrow into early tomorrow evening, that's the cold front. It'll sweep on through and then sets the stage for basically a dry and fair weekend, although there is going to be a difference. Temperatures are going to be decidedly chillier or colder when we get to St. Pat's Day on Sunday.
Here's the surface map, the latest surface map, and I might be able to get to see if the 0Z is in. And come on. Nope, not yet, but this was as of 5 o'clock this afternoon. And Joe, look at these temperatures in Virginia. We got to 70 at Mount Holly today.
Yeah.
In central Jersey, and it was a lot of areas in central and south Jersey, mid to upper 60s, and of course Long Island with the screaming south wind. Many areas got to about 50, 51 or 2, and then dropped back into the 40s. But you have 70s here through Virginia, 70s going all the way up into northern Ohio, 60s into southern Michigan. I mean, this was a very, very strong push of really warm air. And then you head down south where they're got the severe weather, and of course you've got dew points well up into the 60s. And here's there's 2 fronts being analyzed. It's behind the second one that you've got temperatures in the 70s and 60s and dew points down in the 30s.
So it's not really a cold front; it's a dry front.
Right. The lead front is triggering off all the thunderstorms.
Right.
And then there's that a dry line basically behind it.
Yeah.
And this warm sector, or some evidence of a warm sector, pushing all the way up through the Ohio Valley and into, as we said, we got that severe weather that's going on in eastern Michigan of all places. So this is very much a spring-looking surface map that we have.
Right.
And I'm thinking after tomorrow, whatever we get shower-wise tomorrow afternoon, let me just load the surface, because
and speaking of spring, it officially begins next Wednesday at 5:58 Eastern Time. That's the astronomical spring. The meteorological spring has been here since the 1st of March, but of course, the 1st of March came in with flaky weather, snowy weather, cold weather.
That's right.
And we're finally going to see some semblance of a notable warm-up in the coming days ahead.
Here's, this big storm goes out, and as many times it happens when you've had a powerhouse, the atmosphere has to relax. There's nothing left for anything to work on, so basically the whole country's under high pressure.
Right.
Saturday and Sunday. Saturday. I was just going to say Saturday the warmer of the 2 weekend days, Sunday the colder.
I posted on my Facebook page earlier today the probability of precipitation map for late Monday across the country. And Joe, with the prime exception of extreme southern Texas and parts of South Florida, the rest of the country, the probability of precipitation is somewhere between 0 and 5.
I know.
You just cannot get any drier or clearer from coast to coast.
Right, there's nothing left, and if you look, if you look close right around Chicago, folks, there's a little stripe of snow. There's a very weak little low that moves southeastward. That by Monday morning is sitting on the coast and moves out. I threw in the chance that there could be a rain or snow shower with this, and then done and out. And when we look at this in terms of the upper air. And I know a lot of people, those of you who are a bit more weather savvy, we're talking about, the Pacific North America index strongly positive. It doesn't matter, okay? It's geographically how this index is set up. It's not set up in a spot that would favor systems coming up the East Coast. In fact, look at the jet stream here for Sunday along the East Coast. It's a fire. It's the beginning of the long fire hose. There's no room here for anything. So you get this little upper air disturbance that goes through, and that's it. And there's another one behind it for Thursday, and that's it. And goodbye, and we're done.
Right.
And then after that, it's a west-east flow from the Pacific. We should see some warmer temperatures maybe before the month's out.
Yeah.
At least we hope.
It would be nice, although we have known Aprils where the worm has turned and we've suddenly gone into a colder and even sometimes a snowy pattern, although from this vantage point right now, that does not look like it's going to be taking place.
Spring is also a season where lows like to drop down and cut off from the jet stream and just sort of separate and, stick around for days and days, and oftentimes that creates a scenario where we're sitting in a marine layer and a raw ocean wind for 2, 3, or 4 days at a time. This is, I've always emphasized how, spring is no storybook romance of beautiful weather. It's really, I think of the 4 seasons, I think it's the one that I find the worst of the 4 because of the fact that we've, for where we are geographically, you get into that marine layer and you can be cloudy for days and days and days.
And you get the transition, too. It's very difficult to there's still a lot of cold air that's left over up to the north. The warmer air is trying to creep in from the south. This is, of course, why they've seen so much severe weather down in the southeastern states, that clash between the two, producing thunderstorms and tornadic activity. We have not seen anything like that, thank goodness, up here. Although, as you said, Joe, it's a rough period now as we try to make that transition to a protracted or prolonged spell of nice mild weather. Although I will say this in a winter where it's been difficult just to put 2 nice days together in a row, we're going to have a nice stretch now, at least in terms of sunshine or fair weather, going all the way out through much of next week.
And I just want it to warm up a little bit so that I can do a little fishing without feeling like I'm freezing to death.
Yeah.
But that will come in time. By the way, just want to say a big thank you. A number of folks showed up at the Westwood Library in Westwood, New Jersey, and Janet Forbes Dunn, Northern New Jersey Weather Observers. Thank you so much for having me out there. We had a nice crowd. As usual, they had to throw us out because we went past closing time. But it was great, and I really, really enjoyed it.
So
Thanks
it
for
carried
having
over
me.
into the parking lot.
It usually does.
Yeah.
Junior's on. Nice to see you, Junior. I hope you enjoyed your vacation. I saw the pictures online. Very nice. Just saying hello to everybody, including Robert Matthew Policasto. Nice to see you there, Robbie.
I see a lot of top fans there, Joe.
Well,
They're all top fans.
They all are. They're more and more top fans. By the way, I don't do that. That's something Facebook does. They look at how much you participate in on my page, and then you get designated as a top fan. Although my understanding is that Addison was a top fan, but now he's not a top fan. So he's firing off memos left and right. But I'm not really sure how that works. If once you're a top fan, it comes off or it goes back on. Who knows? Facebook makes up the rules as they go along, right?
I'm actually a top fan of one of my former coworkers, Naveen Dhaliwal, who is a reporter. I think one of the rising stars at Channel 7, WABC here in New York, and I worked with her for a number of years, and all of a sudden, I found myself being one of her top fans on her Facebook
oh, nice.
page. So that was very nice.
Since I don't spend time on other people's Facebook pages, I am no one's top fan, apparently. It's hard when you're doing all of this. It's try to, you're so much handling your own stuff.
Concentrating on your own stuff.
Yeah, it's hard to find even the time. James Harris, thanks for coming out. He brought his 15-year-old cousin with him, who's a bit of a weather buff. It was great to see you again, James, and to meet your young cousin and see if he takes it up as a pursuit when he gets into college. I'm trying to think, is there anything going on special this weekend? We have the Rocky Point St. Patrick's Day Parade, I think, on Sunday. So it'll be dry and the sun will be out, but it's going to be cold. And we've got the big St. Patrick's Day Parade in New York City on Saturday.
Nothing against the parade itself, and I know it's a tradition. What is it, like the 234th
I believe
parade
so,
or something like that, or whatever? It just doesn't seem to me the same parade without Captain Jack. Jack
yes.
McCarthy. Now, for many years, that parade was on Channel 11, Pix 11, and Jack McCarthy, who was Captain Jack to all of us kids growing up back in the 50s and 60s. Captain Jack, of course, has passed away. He and Officer Joe Bolton, they were a couple
yes, sir, of
things.
course.
But now it's on Channel 4, I think. And it's a long parade. I mean, my goodness,
well, they go all the way up. Do they start at 42nd Street and they march to 86th?
Right, but it's long in terms of duration. It's even longer than the Thanksgiving Day Parade. It starts at 11 in the morning and runs until 5 in the afternoon. 6 hours. That's quite a long parade.
Oh, it sure is.
It's amazing.
Thomas Katz, he's way up in the upper Hudson Valley. Could it hit 70 tomorrow? Well, these are the kind of situations where it does wind up sometimes getting warmer further up into upstate
right.
New York than it does downstate.
Right.
I didn't really specifically look at the numbers for upstate, but what are you going for you?
I went something like 58 to 65, but that also is predicated on a lot of cloud cover. If we do break into sunshine tomorrow, and I'm not sure where that warm front is going to be.
Well, the south wind, too. If it's going to get gusty overnight, that
right.
south wind is very tricky.
We were both burned over the weekend, that Sunday forecast where we were talking about temps well into the 50s, and at my house it never got higher than 38. At this time of the year, you kind of wonder sometimes when you see even a strong warm front like what we have now to our south. But assuming that if we break out into any kind of sun tomorrow with a southerly wind, yeah, I could see temperatures even in the Hudson Valley heading towards 70. That's not out of the question.
All right. So let's call it a night at this point.
Okay.
Oh, I got to say hi to Joe Alloy. Hi, Joe Alloy. Hope you're doing okay. That's my buddy Joe Alloy.
Okay.
Yes. All right. So we will we'll end it here. Brian Fitzgerald is on tomorrow morning. Right here on FiOS 1 News, Long Island, New Jersey, and Lower Hudson Valley.
Addison Green and Brittany Bora, who I might add, if she just happens to be watching, she did a very interesting and informative special report on FiOS 1 News this evening about the maple syrup season, the tapping of some of the trees. And,
yes.
And it was quite interesting, and also got me hungry because it involved pancakes. And I said all of a sudden, I said, gee, I'm suddenly going to have a craving for pancakes. But it was a good report, Brittany, if you're watching. And then after Addison and Brittany, in the afternoon, come moi and me.
Right, because we're both going to be here tomorrow.
Yes.
And one more time. Winter is over.
You better be right, because if we get one of those odd scenarios in April,
I know.
they're gonna come get you.
But I've already laid the standard at what it has to be in order for it to count.
Now this reminds me, I did a radio station on in Huntington, WGSM 740, and I worked with a guy for many years in the morning, Jim Ferguson, and it was right around this time of the year when occasionally he would ask me during the weather forecast, Joe, is it safe? In other words, can he take the snow tires off? I don't think anybody has snow tires anymore, do they?
Very, very few people do.
But, is it safe? I was always like a little concerned if I was a little too early to say, yeah, don't worry about it.
Well, if you're like me, you give him the answer, and then there's always this little voice of doubt pops into the back of your mind. Are you sure?
Exactly. Exactly.
All right. So we'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a great night, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.